Alrighty, everybody. So for this PowerPoint, we're going to be going over the plot diagram. Now, there's 5 different sections to this diagram, and its presentation's whole goal is to go ahead and get you guys comfortable with creating pretty much a story. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the exposition. Now, the exposition is pretty much the introduction of the story. This section of the plot gives readers the background for pretty much your guys' story. You're going to want to use this section to pretty much catch readers up on where your story begins. You're going to do this by introducing the characters, as well as describing the setting, and you're also going to establish the point of view in this part of the story. So with the point of view, you'll have first person, which is pretty much, is your main character going to be telling the story? Are they going to be the ones, letting the readers know what's going on? Or is it going to be a third person story where something else is going to be explaining the story to them? Remember, with first person, you're going to want to use I pretty much for a majority of your story to let people know that you're going to be, or the main character is going to be telling the story. Or for third person, you're going to want to use different pronouns like he, they, the story begins, different things like that. You're also going to want to describe the setting. Is this story, going to be realistic to reality, or are you going to place it on this random planet across the universe with these weird alien creatures and stuff like that? Completely up to you on what you're going to do with your story, but you're going to want to make sure these things are introduced early on. You could introduce characters a little bit later on into your story, but your most important characters, you're going to want to introduce them pretty early on. Now, this is a little bit of a warning, but try not to give too much of an exposition. Too much of an exposition will tend to make your story pretty long and drawn out, and you don't want to get your readers bored once you're going and getting started with the story. You're going to want to let the other parts of this plot diagram go ahead and set you up for that. Cool, so that is it for exposition. Next, we have the rising action. Now, this is pretty much the main part of the story. This is going to be where you'll establish the conflict, or whatever problem you want established inside this story. You're going to want to use this to build up tension and suspense and other things inside the story. Now, the rising action is called the rising action because this section of your story is going to be leading up to the climax. I'll explain what the climax is just a little bit later, but you're going to want to use this section to go ahead and introduce what the main issue is. Now, going back to the other examples I said earlier, if you have a story hidden or more set it in a realistic world, is your main character, wanting to be a singer? Are they coming into challenges? Is there a record label producer who's, promising all this stuff to them? However, they want a huge cut of money from whatever this or this aspiring musician is wanting. If it's taking place on an alien planet, are these alien planets facing, a conflict with each other, or is there another alien planet wanting to come and take over their world and all that other stuff? Whatever you choose for your main problem, you're going to want to establish that here. And you could pretty much make this as suspenseful and as tension heavy as you want, because once you lead to the climax, that's where everything's going to unfold. So that is it for rising action. Now, for the climax of the story, this is the most exciting part of your guys' story. All the tension and suspense that you've created from the rising action, this is going to be that point of where everything pretty much explodes. You want the main goal of this section is to pretty much resolve the conflict for the most part. So, like I said, with the record producer one, is this going to be where your musician goes and stands up to this record producer and lets them know, no, you're not going to be doing this, all this other stuff. I'm going to go over to another record producer. Or this alien planet, are these aliens going to go and war with each other? Is it going to be a big fight? What's going to happen? You could incorporate a death into this area. You could do whatever you want, just as long as it's, what your whole story has been leading up to from your first 2 parts of this plot diagram. So just remember that this is going to be the most exciting and fun part of your guys' story. Now, what's next after that is the falling action. Now, everything that happened in the climax, this is going to be the aftermath of that. It's going to wrap up a few plot points in the story as well. And it's going to let readers know how the climax affected your characters. Now, we could go ahead and going back to previous examples like what I did for this last one with the record producer one. Is this record producer going to go ahead and fire your character, or are they going to go ahead and take in consideration what they said and work out a deal? Or with these alien planets, which side one, did you allow your alien planet to go ahead and win, or did you let the other alien planet go on and win? Or is there a huge twist that you want to do? Completely up to whatever you want to do, but just be aware that this section is going to be your aftermath of the climax. So yeah, there's pretty much that. The next part after this is going to be the final part, and that is going to be the resolution. Now, the resolution, also known as the denouement, this is the ending of your story. Now, whatever plot points you guys had, or that were our plot holes that you had, you could go ahead and use this section to go ahead and pretty much resolve those issues. You're gonna want to go ahead and let your readers know how the story ended for your characters, or your character or your alien planet. Pretty much let them know. Pretty much the end of the story. And it's not a really hard part of the story, but what's fun about the resolution is that you could either completely end the story here, or you could set this up for another part, or you could create your story into a sequel or a trilogy, or however you're going to do it. You could go ahead and use this section to go ahead and let readers know that there may be another part to your story. And you could do that by doing cliffhangers and stuff like that. Cliffhangers, I will warn you, they will get your readers a little upset, but that's always pretty much a good sign, because that means that you've had your readers so drawn in that they are going to want to keep wanting more. You don't always have to do it, but that's just something that's completely up to you if you choose to do that. So cool. So that is pretty much it with these plot elements. And yeah, so that's it. Thanks for watching.